We often sit and pray for miracles, don't we? We ask God to change our situation, to solve our problems, to open doors. But sometimes, while we're waiting for divine intervention, God is waiting for us to take the first step. You see, faith is not just about asking, it's also about acting. God gives us strength, but He expects us to use it. He gives us opportunities, but He expects us to move toward them. It's like a farmer who prays for a harvest, but never plants a seed. It doesn't work that way. When we take responsibility for our lives, when we make an effort with sincerity, grace follows. God helps those who help themselves, not because He is distant, but because He wants us to grow through our own effort and wisdom. So many of us sit and wonder, why isn't God helping me? Why aren't my prayers being answered? We look at our lives and think that maybe luck has forgotten us or that heaven has turned silent. But the truth is, God is not ignoring us. He is simply waiting for us to move. Because faith without effort is like a song without melody. It sounds nice in words, but it never touches life. When we say, God helps those who help themselves, it means that divine grace flows where human effort begins. It's like electricity, it's always there, but you must switch it on for the light to appear. In the same way, God's blessings are constant, but they illuminate our path only when we act with courage and determination. Think of a man sitting by the riverbank, praying for a boat to take him across. He keeps praying day after day, but no boat appears. Then one day he looks around and finds wood rope and tools lying nearby. That was God's answer all along. The materials were there, but the man had to build the boat himself. This is how life works. God provides the raw materials, our skills, our ideas, our opportunities. But it is up to us to shape them into something meaningful. When you start making an effort, something beautiful happens. You awaken your inner potential. So many of us underestimate what we are capable of because we're waiting for someone else to change our circumstances. But real change begins the moment we decide to move forward, even if it's just one small step. That small step can become the turning point of your entire life. If a student prays for wisdom but never studies, will wisdom fall from the sky? If a man prays for strength but never exercises his will strength appear magically? No, because prayer is meant to be a partnership between heaven and earth. We pray for guidance, but we walk the path. We pray for strength, but we lift the weight. We pray for success, but we sow the effort. Prayer opens the heart, effort opens the door. There's a story of a farmer whose village suffered from a long drought. Every day, people gathered at the temple to pray for rain. They prayed sincerely, but none of them prepared their fields. All except one farmer. He plowed his land, cleared the weeds, and planted his seeds even though the soil was dry. The villagers laughed and said, "Why are you wasting your time? There's no rain." But he smiled and said, "I'm preparing because when God sends the rain, I want my field to be ready." And when the rain finally came, his crops flourished while others rushed in panic. God helped the one who helped himself. That's how grace works. It meets preparation. You don't have to move mountains. You just have to take the first step of faith, and then God multiplies that effort in ways you cannot imagine. The divine does not reward laziness wrapped in faith. It rewards action wrapped in trust. Sometimes people think surrender means doing nothing. But surrender does not mean giving up. It means giving your best and trusting the rest. When you surrender after making your effort, it shows faith. But when you surrender before even trying, it shows fear. The moment you take initiative, life begins to move in your favor. You attract opportunities, wisdom, and people who align with your journey. God has already placed within you everything you need to start. You may not have all the answers, but you have the ability to seek them. You may not have all the resources, but you have the strength to find them. You may not have the perfect conditions, but you have the courage to begin in imperfect ones. God's greatest gift to us is not comfort, it's potential. And potential is activated only through effort. When you decide to help yourself, something shifts inside you. You stop complaining and start creating. You stop waiting for chances and start working with choices. You stop blaming and start building. And that's when you notice God was with you all along, guiding, strengthening, and blessing your every move. Think of a bird sitting on a tree branch. The bird's trust is not in the branch. It's in its own wings. Even if the branch breaks, the bird can still fly. In the same way, when you trust your God-given abilities and make an effort, you rise above fear and uncertainty. You no longer depend on circumstances. You depend on your inner strength. That's when you begin to live with purpose. When life feels stuck, it's not because God has stopped working. It's because we have stopped moving. The moment you take initiative, even in the smallest way, divine help flows toward you. But you must begin. You must act. God can guide your steps, but only if you start walking. Remember, even a seed has to break itself open in the dark before it can grow into a tree. That is effort. That is faith in action. If the seed refused to break, it would remain buried forever. Likewise, every growth in your life will require some breaking. Breaking habits, breaking comfort zones, breaking old patterns. When you embrace that process and put in your effort, grace follows naturally. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to begin sincerely. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who waited for the perfect opportunity. They are the ones who worked with what they had and trusted that God would meet them halfway. It's not about how fast you move, but that you move. When you look back at your life, you'll realize that the moments of your greatest progress came when you decided to stop waiting and start acting. You prayed, but you also persisted. You believed, but you also built. That's when you experience divine partnership, the place where your effort meets God's grace. There is a beautiful truth hidden in life. Faith that does not express itself through action is only a wish. Real faith is not about sitting and hoping. It is about standing up and moving forward. It is about saying, I believe that God will guide me, but I will take the first step. You see, faith without effort is like a car without fuel. It looks good, but it cannot move anywhere. When you look at nature, everything teaches us this principle. The sun rises every day. It doesn't wait for us to wake up. The bird doesn't wait for food to appear. It flies out, searches, and finds it. Even the flower doesn't wait for someone to admire it. It simply blooms. These are lessons from the universe that remind us effort is a divine duty. The one who makes an effort honors the system God has created. If we look at our own lives honestly, we'll find that many times we delay action because of fear. We tell ourselves, what if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if it doesn't work? But have you noticed? Every person who has achieved something in life faced the same fears. The only difference is that they moved forward anyway. They believed that if they did their part, God would take care of the rest. And that is the essence of true faith. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to act in spite of it. Let's imagine a man praying for a job. He prays day and night, asking God to bless him with an opportunity. But if he never prepares a resume, never applies, never learns a skill, how will that prayer manifest? God may be sending opportunities his way, but without effort, he cannot recognize or receive them. Prayer opens your heart, but action opens the door. The two must go hand in hand. One day, a young man once went to a wise teacher and said, I want to climb a mountain, but I am praying that the path becomes easy. The teacher smiled and said, don't pray for an easier path. Pray for stronger legs. That is the key. Don't ask for life to get easier. Ask to grow stronger. Don't ask for problems to disappear. Ask for the wisdom to solve them. Because when you act, you are not just solving problems, you are developing strength, patience, and resilience. These are the qualities God uses to shape your destiny. Faith is not passive, it is active trust. It's like a child learning to walk. The child takes a few steps, falls, then stands again. Every time the child falls, the parents are nearby, but they don't stop the child from walking. They allow the struggle because that's how the child learns balance. Similarly, God allows us to walk through challenges, not to punish us, but to strengthen us. He knows that if He did everything for us, we would never grow. So He helps us by giving us the strength to help ourselves. Sometimes people misunderstand faith as waiting for a miracle. But true faith is creating the space for miracles to happen. When you act, you make yourself available for divine help. God's grace flows where there is movement. If you sit still, nothing changes. But when you move, even slightly, you invite the universe to respond. Action is also a declaration of gratitude. When you act upon the blessings you already have, you show appreciation for them. If you use your time wisely, if you use your skills sincerely, if you make use of your health, you're telling the Creator, I value what you've given me. And when you value what you have, life gives you more. But when you neglect your gifts, when you refuse to act, those gifts slowly fade. Sometimes people ask, if God knows everything, why should I make an effort? The answer is simple, because effort is what makes you grow. You are not here just to be taken care of. You are here to develop. God's purpose is not just to bless you, it is to build you. And building requires work. You may not see the result immediately, but every action you take is like laying a brick in the foundation of your future. There's a story about a man trapped in a flood. He prayed to God for rescue. A boat came by, and the man said, "No, God will save me." A helicopter came, and he said again, "No, God will save me." Eventually, he drowned. When he reached heaven, he asked, "God, why didn't you save me?" And God replied, "I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter. What more were you waiting for?" Sometimes we don't realize that the help we're praying for is already around us, but we fail to act. Divine help often looks like opportunity disguised as responsibility. Every effort you make sends a message to heaven. I am ready. Ready for more blessings, ready for greater responsibilities, ready for the next level. When you do your part, the universe begins to conspire in your favor. People start appearing to help you, doors start opening, ideas begin to flow. But none of that happens until you move. Effort is the signal that awakens divine assistance. It's important to remember that helping yourself does not mean being proud or independent of God. It means cooperating with Him. It means using what He has given you to create what you need. God will never do for you what you are capable of doing yourself. He will only step in when you have done your part. When you act with humility and sincerity, you align yourself with the rhythm of life, and that is when grace flows effortlessly. Action also deepens faith. Every time you act and see a result, your belief strengthens. You begin to understand that miracles are not random. They are responses to movement. And with every experience, your trust grows, your fears shrink, and your confidence in both yourself and the divine becomes unshakable. So, whenever you feel lost or helpless, don't just pray for rescue. Begin with what you can do. Even the smallest effort, made sincerely, can change the direction of your life. If you keep waiting for everything to be perfect, you may never begin. But if you start with what you have, even imperfectly, perfection will meet you along the way. The beauty of this truth is that you are never truly alone in your effort. Every time you rise, every time you try again, every time you refuse to give up, there is a silent partnership between you and the divine. You do the possible, and God does the impossible. You walk the path, and He lights it. You take the step, and He extends the ground beneath your feet. That is the mysterious harmony between human effort and divine grace. When we look at life, we often notice how easy it is to blame fate, destiny, or even God when things don't go our way. We say, if God wanted it to happen, it would happen. But that statement hides a deeper truth. It would happen if you also did your part. The world runs on a divine partnership. God provides the potential, and we provide the effort. He gives us seeds, but we must plant them. He gives us wisdom, but we must use it. He gives us opportunities, but we must walk through those doors. Faith without effort is like a bird with one wing. It can't fly. You see, every person who has ever achieved anything great had moments of uncertainty, struggle, and doubt. But they didn't wait for divine signs to tell them to begin. They acted with courage, believing that God would guide them as they moved. Imagine if a farmer sits and prays for crops, but never sows a single seed. Even if he prays day and night, nothing will grow because prayer without action is incomplete. The same principle applies to life. If we want success, peace, or change, we must act first and trust that divine grace will follow our sincere effort. There's a beautiful truth in this. God does not do for us what we are capable of doing ourselves. He helps us when we help ourselves. When we take a small step forward, He multiplies our efforts in ways we could never imagine. Many people misunderstand spirituality. They think it's about surrendering all effort and waiting for God to move. But real spirituality is taking responsibility. It's about saying, I will do my best, and I trust that the rest will be taken care of. Think about the story of the man stuck in a flood. He prayed to God to save him. A boat came, and he refused, saying, God will save me. Then a helicopter came, and again he refused, saying, God will save me. Finally, he drowned and reached heaven, asking God, why didn't you save me? God said, I sent you a boat and a helicopter, but you refused. This story teaches us a simple lesson. Help often comes disguised as opportunity, but if we are waiting passively, we miss it. Life is about taking that step, no matter how small it feels. When we do our part, the universe aligns to support us. When we give our best, life responds with its best. The people who grow, who achieve, who transform, are not the ones who had it easy. They are the ones who decided not to wait for miracles, but to become one. Every prayer you make must be followed by a plan. Every desire in your heart must be accompanied by discipline in your actions. God does not want us to live as beggars of blessing. He wants us to live as partners in purpose. When you begin to take charge of your thoughts, your actions, your daily habits, you begin to honor the divine energy placed within you. Remember, we are not weak creatures waiting for mercy. We are empowered souls capable of co-creating our destiny. The effort you make is not separate from your faith. It is the proof of it. So, if you want your life to change, start now. Don't wait for the perfect moment or a sign from heaven. That sign is already inside you. The desire to move forward, to grow, to evolve. Work on that idea, make that call, take that risk, learn that skill. Do your part and trust that grace will meet you halfway. God helps those who help themselves because true faith is not waiting, it's walking. Don't wait for life to happen to you. Step forward, do your best, and let the divine power within you turn your effort into excellence. The moment you act with sincerity, heaven begins to move in your favor.